So this segment will review the wonderful conference that we held just a little over a month ago. First week of June, we held our annual consultants conference here in Salt Lake City, the headquarters for the NACVA. It was the first time we'd ever done that. In over 25 years, we've taken our conference to other great cities in America, and for the first time held it here in Salt Lake, which was wonderful. We had our historical average attendance, both between live in person in Salt Lake and live online, joined us. So we're quite pleased that though Salt Lake isn't generally a destination that most travel to for conferences, despite that, we were able to showcase our city and have a wonderful conference. What we generally do at the conference is to produce on the main days of the conference, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, this year at least, we broadcast an early morning show where the ABW correspondents have an opportunity to interview the presenters who are presenting during the conference to talk about their session and the key takeaways. And we're going to summarize some of that in this section with Greg and Melissa, who were on site. And as we are going through this discussion, you'll see some of the great photos that were taken from our staff and other members to get a sense of what a great event it was, and Salt Lake itself, what a great city here in the spring. Pam Bailey retired from the NACVA last summer. We invited her to join us here in Salt Lake to celebrate her tenure and her contribution to the NACVA and the profession. Also, Jonathan Jackson, who's seated next to her, our new executive director, started his tenure with us just under a year. His actual start date with the NACVA is July 31st, but we were able to celebrate Pam and talk about some of the milestones she achieved with the organization in introducing Jonathan, who also has been a guest on ABW a few times in the past month or so, few months. But the opening keynote presentation was delivered by Kendra Hall. Similar to the concepts that Michael Kaplan just covered in his segment where storytelling is critical in the expert witness and the litigation environment, Kendra spoke about how critical it is to take your personal stories when you're engaging with your clients. It's one of the opportunities you have to connect with them and build trust. It's also an opportunity to not come across as a cold expert, but obviously as a human, and to relay those stories to your clients when you're either communicating complex financial analysis like most of you do, or trying to build that bond from a marketing and branding perspective. Melissa or Greg, either of you have any comments from Kendra's session that you picked up?
Well, I think that what Kendra was talking about with having storytelling be part of your marketing, I guess, or what we traditionally like as marketing, is what a lot of people are telling us now, is that, you know, instead of droning on about the ins and outs of valuation theory, that maybe we should be telling stories about how we've helped our clients get through some issue with the valuation, and they can connect with that a little bit more than, oh, is it an income approach or a cost approach? You know, like they just don't care about some of that stuff. Whereas a story, they're like, oh, now you're talking my language.
Yeah, I found it very clever too when she said that most people approach their clients by saying, I have been in business for 25 years and we focus on quality, and everything we do is absolutely quality driven and with the customer in mind. And one of the comments that she made is everyone says that, versus to your point, you know, I've helped my clients through a difficult divorce litigation and they were just warring and they were in court forever and they couldn't find the financial analysis and didn't get along. But I, as the expert, you know, came to the rescue and I helped my clients. It converted that story, or told the story a little differently than a cold sort of approach to these, the ways we've thought about telling stories and building our brand with clients before.
Yeah, people remember stories. I know I do some presentations, and when I started, I thought the point was to get all this wonderful information out I had as quickly as possible so everybody could maximize it. And what I quickly learned is 3 days later, if you did really well, they'll remember 2 or 3 points, and usually those will be the ones made with stories.
Right.
Large companies and leaders actually lead through stories, which almost become legends within the companies. This is how we as people have communicated since long before we had writing. And something in us is very tuned to that and picks up on it and remembers it. Maybe it's because it's how we stayed alive for thousands of years, by listening to other people's stories.
Right.
But it's very effective. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
If you go to YouTube and search NACVA Video Network, we were able to interview Kendra after her session where she spoke of some of the key concepts within her presentation. So on YouTube at NACVA Video Network, you can see the interview with Kendra and also the other Around the Valuation morning shows we produced during the conference with their guests. Melissa, Greg, what were a few of the other sessions that you guys thought were very notable?
Well, I think that some people were there for the pre-conference, which was current updates and valuations. And it was kind of like a 4-part, a day of 4 different topics. One was our standard industry compliance, where we talked about case law, certain, I think the Crest case is what we talked about for a little bit, tax affecting S corps, what basically some of the main takeaway from current updates and valuations, not only with the tax law changes, but you really need to start reevaluating how you're doing this work and how you've developed the analysis, whether you're doing a calculation of value or a conclusion of value, whether you are looking at, how you're looking at the balance sheet, how you're developing your cost of capital. And it's probably a good time to just refresh everything and make sure that, you're encompassing some of the changes that are happening with the tax implications and such. And so we also looked at like the Duff and Phelps online calculator. We had some people there that walked us through it. I think that in general, when you have change, everybody, there's half the people that are embracing it and then the other half that are like, no, I don't want to change. I like how I did it. So I think that, part of the entire conference was just to, take a better look at what you're doing, your report template, the way you've been developing your cap rate, and just pressure test it, whether that means just you alone or if you connect with somebody else in NACVA that can maybe give you some different perspective, because just because we've been doing it for 5 or 10 or 15 years, things have really been changing lately. And so it's just time to reevaluate. It doesn't mean that you're doing anything right or wrong. And the funny thing is I talked to a lot of the people that were there for the conference, and I kind of had mixed feelings. Some people were like, oh yeah, all of these changes create a huge difference in the value of the company. And then other people were like, you can change it and it's a nuance, but it's not really changing the value, in a huge way. So just because you have to change some of the ways that you do the valuation doesn't mean that it's dramatically going to change the value, but you at least need to think about it. And so I think that that was what pretty much we were trying to say in current updates, is that, just take a closer look. It doesn't mean you have to change everything, but I think some people weren't as happy with some of the changes.
Also, what you will find on the YouTube channel NACVA Video Network are interviews that the team did with Roger Grabowski, Jim Allarding, some of the other presenters. The Hardball with Hitchner session was the in session on both of the days, Thursday and Friday. And Jim Hitchner moderated a Q&A with Roger Grabowski, Jim Allardyne, Laurie Maston, Mark Bello. And so you can view those Hardball with Hitchner sessions on the YouTube network channel as well. How are we doing on time, Greg?
We have 2 more minutes, and I had the pleasure of interviewing Roger Grabowski, and that was on the growth and long-term growth, and the amount of research that they are able to put into something is phenomenal. And, and from having the detailed research parsing things, I will also mention we are having Jim Allardyne and Jim Hitchner over the next couple months on the show here. So,
yeah, and so believe it or not, although the conference is a little over a month behind us, we are about to start the process for launching our 2020 conference. Next year, we will hold our annual conference in Philadelphia, June 17th through the 20th at the Lowe's Philadelphia Hotel. In the month of July, if there are any of you who are presenters or subject matter experts on a specific topic, we will have an open call for presentations where you can submit a proposal for the conference. All the proposals that we receive, generally 200 or more every year, are reviewed and vetted by our annual conference planning committee that help headquarters assemble the agenda. We generally have an outstanding agenda of great topics and presenters. If you're due for recertification in 2020, you can achieve all of your continuing education at one event. You can join us live in Philadelphia, which is an outstanding city, or join us through the live online broadcasts. But again, if you would like to see some of the highlights and interviews with the presenters, you can go to our YouTube channel, NACVA Video Network, and see some of the clips there. We're also really excited that at our conference this past June, we launched our international chapter in India. And you can see a quick interview with the chapter leaders in India and some of their hopes and aspirations for growing the profession, our membership, and the CVA credential in India, which is a dynamic country in the world economy. So that should do it, I think, Greg and Melissa. Thanks for joining us.